Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Microbiology Easy Notes. As we know, whole world is going through a very difficult time, this COVID pandemic. But do you know, pandemic is not a new thing to happen. It has existed since the early days of human existence. Mankind witnessed most terrible pandemics in history. So let's know. First, we should know what is pandemic. When particular disease suddenly appears, spread quickly and affect large number of populations, not only in just one country, rather across the many countries, even continents called pandemic. In the domain of infectious disease, pandemic disease is the worst case scenario. Pandemics in history which badly affected the human beings were: first is Athens Plague. Time period is 430 BC to 426 BC. The Greek historian Thucydides documented Peloponnesian War occurred between Athens and Sparta. In his monumental work, he mentioned eruption of plague in Athens. The origin of disease was Ethiopia. The disease swept through North and West Egypt and Libya across the Mediterranean Sea into Persia and Greece. Plague entered the Athens through city's port. It is documented that plague almost killed one third of Greek population, which was around 250,000 to 3 lakh. Thucydides, in his book named History of the Peloponnesian War, gave the description of the disease. Violent heats in the head, redness and inflammation of the eyes, throat and tongue quickly suffused with blood. Breath became unnatural and fatigued, sneezing and hoarseness, violent cough, vomiting, retching, violent convulsions, the body externally not so hot to the touch, nor yet pale, a livid color inkling to red, breaking out in pustules and ulcers. Antonine Plague 165 AD, also known as Plague of Galen, on the name of physician who described it. Antonine Plague broke out in 165 AD in Roman Empire during the reign of Marcus Aurelius Antoninus. Outbreak occurred in two phases, majorly affect the entire Roman population. The disease most likely first emerged in China shortly before 166 AD, spreading westward along the Silk Road and by trading ships headed for Rome. It is believed that Roman military came into contact with disease during their halt on Silk Road while they were returning from the war. Disease reached to Rome with soldiers. It was estimated that quarter to a third of the entire population was perished, which was around 60 to 70 million people. Lucius Verus, co-emperor with Marcus Aurelius, died from the illness in 169 AD. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, also died 11 years later from the same illness. Galen, a Greek physician and author of Methodus Medandi, not only witnessed the outbreak but described its symptoms and course. According to him, more common symptoms were fever, diarrhea, vomiting, thirstiness, swollen throat, and coughing. More severe symptoms were blackish diarrhea due to gastrointestinal bleeding. The coughing produced a foul odor on the breath and an exanthema, skin eruption or rash over the entirety of the body distinguished by red and black papules or eruptions. Justinian Plague, time period 541 to 549 AD. Bubonic plague caused by bacteria Yersinia pestis appeared in Roman Empire during the reign of Roman Emperor Justinian, thus called Justinian Plague. The plague of Justinian is generally regarded as the first historically recorded epidemic of Yersinia pestis. The emperor himself was infected with disease but survived. Contagion arrived in Rome from Egypt in 541 AD. It severely infected Roman Empire and Sasanian Empire, spread around Mediterranean Sea, Europe and Arabian Peninsula until 549 AD. According to historians, contagion came to the city by infected rats on grain ships arriving from Egypt. Genetic studies of modern and ancient Yersinia pestis DNA suggests that the origin of the Justinian plague was in Central Asia. The most basal or root level existing strains of the Yersinia pestis as a whole species are found in Xinjiang, China. 25 million people infected due to Justinian Plague. The Black Death, 1346 to 1353. Black Death, also known as the Great Plague, was a second large outbreak of bubonic plague in Europe. Possible causes: disease started in Asia and moved to West by Mongol warriors and traders. Plague reached to Europe first in Italian ports by rats on grain ships. Fleas that fed off infected rats spread the disease rapidly. It was one of the most devastating pandemic in the history, which wiped out half of the population of Europe, which was around 200 million. Symptoms of the disease were swollen lymph nodes, sudden fever and chills, headaches and muscle aches. According to transcript of a first-hand account of Black Death, described the disease as a great mortality, destroyed more than a third of the men, women and children. As a result, there was such a shortage of servants, craftsmen and workmen and of agricultural workers and laborers that a great many lords and people, although well endowed with goods and possessions, were yet without service and attendance. Alas, this mortality devoured such a multitude of both sexes that no one could be found to carry the bodies of the dead to burial, but men and women carried the bodies of their own little ones to church on their shoulders and threw them into mass graves, from which arose such a stink that it was barely possible for anyone to go past a churchyard. Russian flu 1889 to 1890. During late 19th century in Russia, influenza disease appeared, and after a few months disease took a grip on Europe and rest of the world. The disease created such a havoc that quickly in a span of few months death toll reached up to 1 million. In the 19th century, world had a good transportation system which included railways and shipping. Though air travel was not existed, still disease could spread rapidly. Seroarchaeological data has indicated that influenza outbreak of 1889 to 1890 was due to influenza A subtype H3N8, but further research revealed it was the ancestor strain of human coronavirus OC43. Spanish flu 1918. The Spanish flu outbreak occurred in 1918 caused by H1N1 influenza virus. The disease continued for almost 2 years and infected 500 million people worldwide. Death toll was around 50 million. Surprising fact about Spanish flu was it mostly infected young people rather old than children. Symptoms include fever, chills, headache, fatigue, heavy cough, and lungs filled with fluid. Flu cases were first reported in Germany, France, and USA before spreading around the world. This was the time of First World War. Many countries tried to hide the news of the disease, but Spanish newspaper published the outbreak of infectious disease. Spanish King Alfonso XIII also caught the flu. This gave false impression that Spain is hard hit by flu virus, thus named Spanish flu. 1918 was the time where no effective drugs and medicines were available to fight against virus. As control measures, people were advised to wear masks, schools, colleges and entertainment centers were closed, essential stores opened in shifts. AIDS 1981 to present. AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, first identified in 1981 in American gay community. AIDS is caused by human immunodeficiency virus. Place of origin of the disease is Kinshasa, Congo. It is believed that the disease developed from chimpanzee virus in West Africa in the 1920s. The virus most likely jumped to humans when humans hunted these chimpanzees for meat and come in contact with their infected blood. Since its identification, HIV infected millions of people worldwide till date. Almost 35 million people have been killed. Disease takes almost 2 to 5 years to kill the person. AIDS virus first attack on immunity system and gradually completely destroy the body's defense mechanism. For several decades, there were no treatment of HIV, but now till 2020, two individuals can be cured due to availability of new age anti-AIDS therapy. Those infected by the HIV virus encounter fever, headache, and enlarged lymph nodes upon infection. AIDS spread human to human via certain body fluids. People get infected if they come in contact with infected person. Virus enters in the body via unprotected sexual intercourse, blood transfusion, and from infected mother to a child. SARS in year 2003. SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome, first started in bats, then cats, and after that infected human beings. Human cases were first reported in China. After that, almost 26 countries reported the cases of SARS. Disease killed more than 700 people and infected thousands of people worldwide. Symptoms of SARS is flu-like, which include dry cough, fever, headache, and body aches. It spreads through respiratory droplets from cough and sneezing. Swine flu pandemic year 2009 to 2010. After 2003, world saw another virus attack caused by new strain of H1N1 virus. Disease came to human by consumption of infected swine meat. Virus first appeared in Mexico in 2009. In next 1 year, virus rapidly spread throughout the world and infected 1.4 billion people and killed more than 5,75,000 people. And now COVID-19, December 2019 to present. At present, world is going through very difficult time due to coronavirus pandemic. Virus first identified in China caused serious pneumonia-like symptoms. Virus first hit the central Chinese city named Wuhan. It emerged in the city in the month of December 2019 and killed 40 people and infected 1,300. It is believed that the viruses emerged from seafood market that conducted illegal transactions of wild animals, while bat may be the original source of infection. Eating bat transferred the virus in human and then human to human infection became possible. Later infection spread from Wuhan to several Chinese provinces as well as reached to the US, Thailand, South Korea, Europe, and now almost every country in the world facing this serious crisis. Till date, as per data, 15 million people have been infected and death toll is more than 6,43,000 and still counting. Most number of deaths occurred in USA. The virus responsible for outbreak understood to be a new strain of coronavirus not previously identified in humans. The World Health Organization named this new type 2019 novel coronavirus. Symptoms of the disease are runny nose, cough, sore throat, headache, fever, a general feeling of being unwell. More severe conditions are pneumonia, bronchitis, difficulty in breathing, invasive pneumonic infiltrates in lungs, and loss of smell and taste. Several people are not displaying any symptoms of the disease though they have contracted the virus. This makes the situation more complicated. Many countries working on developing vaccine against coronavirus. World is looking for some relief from this pandemic.